But a bunch of Danny Masterson's co-stars from that 70s show published or wrote letters to the judge basically begging for leniency, which he didn't get. So you asked for leniency, he didn't get the leniency, and now you look dumb. And everyone hates you. Hello everyone, my name is Nada, and this is officially my 4th time trying to film this video because I'm pissed and I ran out of storage on my phone. I'm not going to spend too much time on an intro. I really want to get this up as quickly as I possibly can, but if you like watching girls sit on the floor of their bedroom and yell about things that make them angry, please consider subscribing to this YouTube channel. I make videos about literally whatever I want at whatever interval I want, because I've posted 3 times this week already. But basically, today I want to talk about Danny Masterson, Ashton Kutcher, Mila Kunis, the rest of the cast of That 70s Show who has shown support for Danny Masterson, and another crumbling brick in the building that is celebrity culture. I feel like every video I've made has in some way, every video I've made about celebrities has in some way talked about how celebrity culture is falling apart, but everything that has happened has just been like you couldn't script this in a movie. Do you know what I mean? Yesterday, as of when I'm filming this, it was revealed that, or it was reported that Danny Masterson who is the actor who played Hyde on That 70s Show, was convicted of 2 counts of forcible rape. I have to use euphemisms because if I ever hope to be monetized on YouTube, I can't speak freely. But he was convicted of 2 counts of forcible rape and sentenced to 30 years to life in prison, which, as someone who's a self-proclaimed prison abolitionist, I don't believe in prison as a construct. However, as it continues to exist in this world with us, to see someone receive that level of a sentence for a crime that usually isn't penalized that hardly felt gratifying. I'm not gonna lie, it did. Beyond that, for him to receive a sentence of 30 years to life, what did he do? What actually happened? That is such a heavy sentence for a crime that normally doesn't receive. I mean, we can even just look at Brock Turner, okay? Like, he did something horrible, and you wouldn't want that person, well, allegedly, because I don't want to get sued, but I allegedly wouldn't want that person on these streets free. He got a slap on the wrist. So, like, that, all of this is first that he got convicted after such a long time, after the alleged events happened, and B, that he got such a heavy sentence. That tells me that something was happening, okay? What else came out in the news today is that people wrote letters of leniency for him. Now, if you remember the Tory Lanez trial, it was revealed that some other people also wrote letters of leniency on behalf of the Canadian leprechaun. Most notably, Iggy Azalea wrote a letter on his behalf. Mario wrote a letter on his behalf, but people who haven't been relevant in years, at least a decade. And those were published publicly. Like, people were able to access those letters. So you would think that seeing that happen, but these people are white. Like, I promise you, these people are white. They're not paying attention to anything that's happening on the black side of things, unless it's in front of them at the Oscars, but we're going to get into that. I have to imagine that Ashton and Mila assumed that the letters wouldn't be published publicly in order for me to have any faith in humanity. But a bunch of Danny Masterson's co-stars from That 70s Show published or wrote letters to the judge basically begging for leniency, which he didn't get. So you asked for leniency, he didn't get the leniency, and now you look dumb and everyone hates you. But what I want to say is, I've heard rumors about Danny Masterson for at least 7 years. Like, even before Me Too. Like, I went on his Wikipedia page years ago, and there was information that he had been accused by people of SA. So, if I know, and I'm just a random girl in Maryland. What do the girls in Los Angeles know? But I just want to read to y'all the letter that Ashton Kutcher wrote on behalf of his friend. Now, mind you, this was written by a man who claimed to have left Hollywood so that he could advocate against human trafficking and advocate for victims of human trafficking. So this letter says, in part at least, "We have spent hundreds of hours working together. Danny takes his job seriously. He is kind, courteous, and hardworking. He treated everyone from the grips to the teamsters to the actors to the caterers as equals. He showed up on time all the time and always pulled his weight. We have also traveled around the world together promoting our work. I can honestly say that no matter where we were, who we were with, I never saw my friend be anything other than the guy I have described. While I am aware that a judgment has been cast as guilty on 2 counts of rape by force, and the victims have a great desire for justice, I hope that my testament to his character is taken into consideration in sentencing. I do not believe he's an ongoing harm to society, and having his daughter raised without a present father would be, there's a typo, would a tertiary injustice in and of itself. Thank you for taking the time to read this. Ashton Kutcher." This is insane. This is insane that a person who is a self-proclaimed advocate against human trafficking and sex trafficking, which is in and of itself a violation of the bodily rights and autonomy of the people who are subjected to it, would know that their friend has been convicted of violating the bodily autonomy of 2 separate people, and instead of thinking to themselves, oh my gosh, this must not be the person that I thought it was, or wow, he must be really good at hiding, or a different him showed up in that moment, he said, I'm going to write a letter to a judge and attach my name to it and tell him, oh my God, I've never met a grapist, Danny. I would never think that Danny was a grapist. Danny has never, in the 20 years that I've known him, attempted to grape me. So clearly he couldn't possibly have done this. And I mean, like, I know he was convicted of doing it, but like, and that the people who he did it against really want him to go to jail, but like, could he just not, please? It's me, Ashton. What kind of narcissism, what kind of hubris, what kind of idiocy do you have to be subjected to think that anything that you can say on behalf of the character of a person who is convicted of grape is going to lead to leniency, other than saying, I know how sorry they are. This is the worst thing that he's ever done, and he's been to therapy, and he takes full responsibility, and he knows that he's guilty, and he's committed to rehabilitating himself and learning how to control himself, all of this stuff. Even on a parole board, like, I've watched enough Law & Order to know that a parole board requires you to take responsibility for what you have done in order for you to be able to be released. Like, you have to say, I know that I did something bad and I'm sorry that I did it, in order for you to get out on parole. And if you continue to insist that you didn't do what you did, they're not going to let you out, because they're going to be like, you're not appropriately, you don't feel appropriately bad about the crime that you committed. Now, are there a lot of people who are falsely accused of things who end up getting caught up in the system? Yes. But like I said, me, a random teenager in Maryland, heard rumors about Danny Masterson being a rapist in the mid-2010s. So if I knew, I don't buy. I don't buy that he didn't do it. I don't buy that a man with the amount of money, the amount of access, the amount of notoriety that he has would be convicted of this level of crime without an amazing amount of evidence that he did in fact do it. I just don't believe that that's the case. I'm so sorry. Not even just that, he's tied to Scientology. Don't they run California? Like, what? Isn't that man still living in a boat? Or no, that man died living in a boat because he didn't want to be convicted of alleged crimes that he committed. Like, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense that he would be being railroaded. He is not a person. This isn't if Beale Street could talk, okay? He is not a person living in poverty with little access to adequate defense. This is a wealthy, well-known actor with ties to a large organized religion that has allegedly put a lot of effort into protecting him in the past. So for Ashton and Mila to write letters, what did Ashton say? Ashton was talking about how he's a role model, and Mila commented on his exceptional character, and Kurtwood Smith, who played Red, I want to see if I can find what he said. Oh yeah, he said that he's treated other women fine, so he couldn't be that bad. This is from a tweet. I don't have the letter in and of itself, but like, I'm going to read another tweet to you. Okay, so these are the famous people who wrote letters on behalf of Danny Masterson: Ashton Kutcher, Mila Kunis, Deborah Jo Rupp, Giovanni Ribisi, Billy Baldwin, and all of his siblings, all of Danny Masterson's siblings, including Christopher Masterson, who played the oldest brother on Malcolm in the Middle, and then 2 other people I've never seen in anything. But this woman on Twitter said, her name is Shonda, I don't know how to pronounce it, Prescott Weinstein. And she said, I read the letters from the people I listed before, and the takeaway is this: a man can be an extraordinary father, friend, and colleague and still be a rapist, and a rapist often hides that side of himself from others. I don't have friends. This is my thing. I love all of my friends down. I'm obsessed with them. I love them. I would fight for them. If any of them were convicted of sexual assault, I don't think that I would be able to maintain a relationship with them, let alone feel good writing a character reference for them to a judge asking for leniency without knowing that they had been taken over by a demon, or I don't know what extenuating circumstance could, other than being taken over by an actual demon that I've seen with my own 2 eyes, that could excuse that type of behavior. I would have serious trouble continuing relationships with these people. And these are people that I have known since I was in middle school, the 6th grade. So I'm struggling to understand the tone of these letters and how people can seriously write the words, this person is a role model, this person has exceptional character, I've never seen this person be rude to other women, when you know that they were convicted of grape. A person who's convicted of grape is not a role model. They don't have exceptional character. They are a rapist. That makes you a bad person. There's nothing else that can convince me otherwise. And particularly for Ashton Kutcher, who is a human trafficking advocate, to have the level of narcissism and cognitive dissonance that is necessary for him to believe that his friend deserves leniency for doing the thing that he has been fighting against for over a decade. It's sick. It's sick. I think that celebrity gives people a level of entitlement and a level of exceptionalism within themselves. They start to they start to get high on their own supply. They start to drink the Kool-Aid. You think because you have a house manager and a nanny and an assistant and you haven't had to wipe your own ass in the past 20 years because you got lucky and got cast on a TV show that has been in syndication for 20 years. First of all, this is not an opportunity that actors nowadays get. Like, TV shows don't get put into syndication the way that they used to. I remember coming home from school and watching that 70s show every day on ABC Family, which is now Freeform. Like, actors nowadays with streaming and everything, they don't get to be wealthy in the same way that the actors from the 2000s and previous were. But you think that because you got lucky by doing your profession at the right time, not even that well, might I add, at least on the part of Ashton, it means that you have the required, whatever it is, intelligence, character. It means that you yourself are a credible enough witness to this person's character, that you are a good enough person, a smart enough, funny enough, virtuous enough person to attest to the character of this other person. You working with somebody on a television show does not make you a good person. You being famous and rich does not make you a good person. You being able to afford to not work does not make you a good person. The reason that I'm making this video, I don't know why, honestly, but I think there's a way that I want people, anyone who comes across this channel, anyone who comes across this video, to be a more informed human existing in the world. I've said it multiple times in my videos, and I'll say it again. We ascribe virtue to people who are in the public eye because we like to think of the world as a meritocracy. That's not what it is. There's a lot of random chance and luck that goes into people having access and having the ability to get to a level where they are wealthy and entrenched enough to be in the public eye and be people that we watch on television and that we see walk down red carpets and whatnot. So if I can disabuse you of the notion that any couple that you've looked at as couple goals, or actor that you've looked up to as a role model, or singer, or whomever in the public eye is a good person solely based off of the musical output or the creative output that they make, even if they do a ton of public philanthropic work, everything about famous people and fame is constructed. It's all an image that is made to keep them exactly where they are, which is as shills of power, because they don't have real power. You know, like if Leonardo DiCaprio had real power to do anything about climate change, he would be doing that. He wouldn't be calling us and saying, hey, can you donate $5 to me, a half billionaire, so that I can save the Amazon rainforest. You know, they are the physical representations of power. They are employed by companies to sell us normal people things. And that's what their place in the world is. They're not good, they're not bad for being on television or in movies or in magazines. They just occupy their space in the world. So I remember watching Gilmore Girls, and in the final season, there's a character, I'm trying not to spoil it as if you wouldn't have already watched Gilmore Girls by now if you were going to, but in the final season, there's a character who is trying to get joint custody for their child, and he asks his friends to write character references for him, right? I feel like writing a character reference about a person's ability to be a good parent is one thing. You've seen the person with the child. You've seen how the child reacts to the person. You understand that this child wants to continue to be in this person's life. You don't have any inkling that this person is abusive towards this child, whatever. Anyone who's close enough with someone can credibly attest to whether or not this person is a good enough parent to be awarded the custody that they're asking for, right? Whereas with Grape and SA, no one except the person, and we have this idea of Grapists as these people who like roam around at night looking for victims, and they're loners and they don't have any friends, and people liked Ted Bundy, like people liked Ed Kemper. Nobody except the person who was SA'd or graped by someone can attest to whether or not this is a good person. They could have, and even then, and this is like a foundation, I think, of restorative justice, but we don't have to get into that too deep. But like, even then, that person, the person who was assaulted by them, has to have a level of kindness in order for them to be able to say, I forgive this person and I am able to see the good in them, and I want to advocate for leniency on the part of this person because they've apologized to me, or we did whatever restorative justice practice together. They went to therapy. I see that they are sorry. That is the only person who is supposed to be able to ask for leniency. Not a bunch of random people who acted on a TV show with this person 17 years ago and now want to say, oh, well, I've known him for 20 years and we worked together a few times, so he must be a good person. He wasn't even on, and this, Deborah Joe and Kurtwood really inadvertently killed that 90s show, because, like, I don't have any interest in watching that show in the first place. I wasn't particularly interested in it in the first place because I just don't care that much. Like, that 70s show was interesting to me because the 70s were so far away that I couldn't even conceptualize them. But, like, the 90s I could conceptualize. I can turn on a TV show from the 90s and feel like I understand what life was like. I feel like TV shows from the 70s are not as accessible as they were in the early 2000s. But, like, that 90s show wasn't even good. And people really were watching it off the strength of their nostalgia and the fact that they wanted to see Kitty and Red on screen together again. And Kitty and Red done shot themselves in the foot, because the Gen Zs are not going to forgive you for being on the side of a rapist. They simply will not. So they inadvertently killed that 90s show, but Hyde wasn't even on that 90s show. There was that other Netflix show that Ashton Kutcher did with Danny Masterson that got canceled after these accusations came out. Like, he has ruined several lucrative financial opportunities for you by being the nasty person that he has been convicted of being. And you still are willing to put your own reputation on the line. That just speaks so much to someone's character. And that's just another thing to say, like, and I guess part of the reason why I'm angry too is because I did love the story of, like, oh, Ashton Kutcher and Mila Kunis, they were co-stars on the show, they played a couple on the show, but they never dated in real life. Then they both ended long-term relationships and they found each other, and then they got married and they had these beautiful children and they're so happy now. And Jackie and Kelso basically got to live out their dream, whatever. I bought into that fantasy, right? I bought into that spin that we were sold, basically, about this couple. And here I am now to see that they're not good people. And I'm not saying that they're not good people. I'm saying that they're not good people because they have made a choice that is to advocate for someone on behalf of someone who, A, does not need it. Because as I mentioned before, he has so much access and money, whatever. When they claim to be advocates for victims and for the little people, they're not good. They're not good. And now I know, 9 times out of 10 people will tell on themselves. And I believe them. The other thing I want to say is Danny Masterson's wife has been weird for years. Her name is Bijou Phillips. She is Mackenzie Phillips' half-sister. And I didn't expect any better from her, because when her own sister accused their father of SA and of assaulting her for several years throughout her adult life, she said, well, no, he was my dad and he loved me. He would never do that. As though it is entirely beyond the realm of possibility that somebody could be a good father to one child and absolutely terrible to another. Like, have we never seen that movie before? What are you talking about? That's literally the plot of Cinderella. Like, but anyways, so she's been weird ever since I read about that. Like, not, first of all, your dad is dead. Second of all, you don't believe it doesn't matter. And then her shenanigans through this entire trial. I don't normally blame a wife for the behavior of their husband. That being said, she's been saying, oh, he wouldn't do this. He'd never do this. That's not the type of person. She's been denying the truth of the victims, wailing and falling on the floor when he was convicted of being guilty, holding his hands when he walks into the court. Like, all of this stuff, that woman is weird. And I just wanted to mention it because I don't want it to get lost in the shuffle of us being angry at Ashton Kutcher and Mila Kunis. She's weird. And God bless that child. I'm happy they only have one kid, is what I'll say. And God bless her. I hope she grows up to be good and kind and happy and balanced, because the family that she's coming from set her up for failure. I I don't have any more anger left inside of me. Like, I really don't. I'm seeing like people online talking about praising Topher Grace and being like, oh, yeah, people would always make fun of Topher Grace for not wanting to be pals with that 70s show crew, but now we know. I'm not gonna cape for any celebrity. I'm just not. Like, we're saying this today, he tomorrow could be exposed to be just as bad, if not worse, than Danny. It's not my job to say good job Topher, bad job Ashton, Mila, Deborah, and Kurtwood. No. Wilmer Valderrama dated a 17-year-old when he was 29. Like, they're all weird. The real last thing that I wanted to say is that Mila and Ashton were the same people who at the Oscars, Mila Kunis says standing ovation for Will Smith at the Oscars after slap was shocking, insane to me. Not standing up to me was a no-brainer, Mila Kunis said of the applause Will Smith received winning Best Actor moments after hitting Chris Rock on stage. Somebody also said, coincidentally, there's a strong correlation between people who defend rapists, and people who wanted to cancel Will Smith for the slap. White supremacy. Chris Rock is aligned with white supremacy. I don't know if Will Smith is. I can't say yes or no, but like, we don't have to get too deep into that, but it's not lost on me that these people who claim to abhor violence and think it is the worst thing in the entire world are the same people who wrote a letter supporting their violent rapist friend because he was a good friend to them. It's disgusting. I don't want to make this video any longer than it absolutely has to be, but since I recorded yesterday, Ashton and Mila have released a piss poor apology on Instagram stories, basically saying that they quote unquote stand with victims and they're sorry for any harm that they caused by writing those letters of support for Danny. They did it for the family, blah, 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 whatever. My main takeaway from that is that they didn't think that the letters would be published. And I want to once again reiterate that this happened in the Black community not even 2 months ago, if I'm remembering correctly. Iggy Azalea was getting stomped all over Black Twitter for writing a letter of support on behalf of Tory Lanez. And you would think that anybody with a cultural consciousness that extended beyond their rich white existence would look at that and say, hey, let me not do this. But it just continues to entrench for me what is like a kind of minor takeaway from this whole situation, which is as Black people and people of color, we have to be so keyed in to white culture in order to keep up and be able to succeed. But like, this literally happened 2 months ago. A case about a rapper shooting another rapper and a third rapper getting caught in the crosshairs because she thought it would be a cute look to write a letter of support for her assaulting friend. And I'm positive they didn't know that it happened. And I could make the ties between that and white supremacy more clearly, but I don't want to. Maybe somebody else can in the comments. But yeah, that's it. I actually had privated my video about the slap. Because I just didn't want people to be mean to me. But I think I'm going to take it off private now. Because I really stand by 98% of what I said. That's all I have to say about this. I'm exhausted. I've filmed this video 4 times. My phone has run out of storage so many times. I'm getting congested more and more as I talk. If you made it to this point in the video, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you letting me rant and ramble at you for a long time. But yeah, that's all I have to say about that. And I will hopefully see you in the next one. Goodbye.